Okay, so now let's look at that envelope shape idea and the horizontal and verticals that we looked at in the last video and see how we can apply that to a grouping of objects. So here I've got a still life, and how can I use those construction line ideas to not only help me draw the objects and get the character of the objects, but also to get the character now of the spacing between the objects, because we have to be concerned with that when we're dealing with a grouping of objects. So I can start the same way that I did with a single object, in that I can imagine an envelope shape that all of those objects are contained within. So if you imagine like a piece of string that's sort of going and it's connecting the outside of these elements, what kind of shape would that make? So from here to the top, over to the pink cup, and then down to the bottom of the pink cup, and then forward to the pear, then over to the back to the bottle, then back up to the top of the bottle. I might get a shape like this. So this is an idea it's kind of abstract, but it allows me to see the whole grouping as a whole at the beginning, rather than just sort of drawing one part and then another part. A lot of times when you do that, all of a sudden the drawing gets out of control and you've gone too big or too small, or whatever it may be. But this, you can control things a little bit better by saying, first of all, okay, what's that shape that everything is contained within, and then let me work within that and make sense of it. All right, so the next stage for this would be to then take a vertical and a horizontal, those vertical and horizontal midlines, and relate that to what I'm seeing up there. So when I look up there, the pear and the pink cup are basically on the left side, and the bottle's on the right side. The pear and the pink cup are basically below this midline or around the midline, and then the bottle's above that. Right? Then what creates the space up here, the vertical spacing, that is how far things are away from me, are where these things sit down in space. So here for the pear, there for the cup, there for the bottle. So with the pear and the cup, which are on this left side and sort of in this area, the pear is closer to me, right? That's further forward. So the envelope shape for the cup and the pear might be something like this, with the cup being here and the pear is going to be lower. So just kind of eyeballing it, but saying that generally speaking, these two objects are going to be on the left-hand side and sort of around the middle here, with the pear being closest, the cup being a little bit further back. And then when I look at the bottle, that's higher up than this, so I've got to make sure that the bottom is above that point. And it's going to be on the left-hand side, so it's going to be over here somewhere. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, about where things are. So in a very simple way, I've kind of schematically laid out about where these things are. Everything's movable at this point. I haven't absolutely committed to anything, but kind of got myself in the ballpark, so I know I'm not going to, dramatically expand or have to expand or shrink the drawing, because I've taken a little bit of time at the beginning just to think about these big line relationships. And okay, so now what I want to do is I want to check the spacing a little bit more closely. So I've got, again, my pear, my cup, and my bottle, and I'm just going to start with the pear because that's closest to me. I don't have to, but I'll just do that. So my pear is in here. Maybe it's the character of that shape is a little bit wider than what I've got here. Again, trying to keep it pretty simple still at this stage. I'm going to put a vertical and a horizontal on the pear now. So I've got a vertical and horizontal on the whole grouping. And now with these individual objects, I'm going to think about the relationship of them based on verticals and horizontals. So if I want to check now where this cup is, say relative to this, the pear is cropping this cup. And so I can see where this line, so this is the kind of the critical line that's going to give me my vertical spacing relative to this. I can see where that is relative to this halfway mark. So when I look up there, it's definitely below that halfway mark. So I've got to make sure that this is below that halfway mark. If I put this up here or way down here, the space wouldn't have made sense. It would have been either too far away or too close. Right? All right. And then I can judge everything else. I can build off of these shapes that I've already put in. So if I feel somewhat confident about the shape, the basic shape of this pear, and I've got this vertical and horizontal, then this distance I can compare to this distance, or the distance between the cup and the bottle, which is in here, I can compare to this halfway mark on the cup. I can look at halfway and compare it to that. So there's no halfway marks up there, but I just have to visualize that. So you can kind of slowly vector in on the right shape of the objects and also the spacing between the objects in this way. An object like this, which is sort of off to the side, it's not being cropped, I can use a horizontal to find where this is. So visually, I can put this up and make sure I've got an absolute horizontal, and I can bring it across and I can see where it hits this object or that object relative to their midlines. So, and every time you put in a construction line, it's important to really commit to it. Don't just kind of say, okay, well, I kind of get it, but I'm not going to put it in because it's just going to busy up the drawing. You've got to be very literal about it. And the more literal you are about these lines, so if I wanted to see where this was in relation to this shape over here, I would put in a horizontal and I would take it over, like it's hitting that object where. Or, you know, this pear is hitting this object where over here. So each time I put in construction line, I want to be very literal about it, because each time you make it physical for yourself, the idea of the construction line becomes more deeply embedded in your consciousness. And so, you know, if you never put it down, if you never make it physical, then it's not going to really stick with you and become a part of your looking the way it will, as if you absolutely make a commitment to be very, very literal and clear about it on your paper. Okay.